The United States' closest allies have singled out the Trump administration over recently imposed steel and aluminium tariffs. The G7 finance ministers expressed their disappointment over President Donald Trump's decision to slap tariffs on Canada, the European Union and Mexico last week. They say the tariffs will undermine open trade and weaken confidence in the global economy.
We think this action is inappropriate. We think it's absurd to consider Canada a security risk to the United States, and therefore we've taken a targeted and considered approach to retaliation. Our goal is to convince the United States to move back from these tariffs, which we don't think are going to help either of our economies, and which are going to actually hurt citizens in the United States and citizens in Canada.
Our editor-at-large, Craig Copetas, joins me now from Paris for more. Craig, I guess it doesn't come as a huge surprise that 6 out of the 7 G7 members united to condemn Trump's tariffs. But let's face it, President Trump probably doesn't care about what they have to say. But I mean, in all seriousness, do you think he will actually listen to their concerns?
Not until the pesh replaces the U.S. dollar as the global currency. Trump will continue chest thumping like a bully boy, confusing the global markets because he's conciliatory 1 hour and then the next hour he becomes militant. And this is not starting a trade war, it's escalating a trade war. You know, when Trump first announced these tariffs, there was a broad backlash against them in the United States and on Capitol Hill, because Congress has the constitutional right to regulate trade. Here's where it got hinky. Trump started regulating because he called it a national security threat, which is only used for national emergencies, and this is not a national emergency. Now, any global leader in the world can use the same excuse, and that's how things unravel.
Yes, and things are potentially unravelling as we speak, because as we know, Canada, Mexico and the EU have all pledged measures of their own on things like American blue jeans, bourbon, Harley-Davidsons, admittedly not as big ticket as steel and aluminium. But what should these countries that have been slapped with these tariffs do in response?
Boy, I don't believe they even know. I was over at the French Foreign Ministry today to talk about this, and I can tell you they're kind of flapdoodled by all of this because no one wins a trade war. Look, Nixon did it, Reagan did it, Herbert Hoover did it with the Smoot-Hawley tariff bill back in the 30s, which historians will tell you was a direct plumb line to the rise of fascism in Europe. What are they going to do? Slap more tariffs on American goods coming here? Trump is trying to get them to do whatever it is he wants. No one's really certain what that is, as I said, by bullying them to the table and doing this brinksmanship. So the negotiators, as crazy as this sounds, remember we're dealing with a real estate hustler from Queens, is the negotiators who usually know what's going to happen don't have a clue.
Yes, just to move on to another country that's been affected by these trade tariffs, and that's China. We know that the latest round of trade talks has just wrapped up in Beijing. Pretty disappointing. China has even threatened to walk away from its promise to buy more American goods to address the trade deficit. Who's going to win out of that battle?
Well, again, there are no winners and losers in a trade war. Trump's position is, hey, we're losing $800 billion a year to the Chinese. I'm going to play as tough as I want for as long as I want. Who can survive the carnage of a trade war longer? That's the question, and the answer is China.
And let's play devil's advocate for a moment. Trump's upsetting of the apple cart that is global trade. I mean, is this a canny move to get the players to the table, as you just mentioned earlier? Is this a way to open a broader discussion to shake up the business as usual attitude of organisations like, you know, the OECD, the WTO and other entrenched institutions?
It's never worked before. Since the Industrial Revolution, it's never worked. What Trump is doing is he's going to unleash a torrent of retaliatory measures, which are going to be driven by populism, which is what everyone now fears. Trump doesn't seem to care about this. And the Europeans are mystified. The curious thing is, we're talking about how this is confusing to everyone. One of the reasons the Europeans are mystified is because Australia has been exempted from these tariffs. And the Europeans are saying, well, hold on a minute. We're allies too. How come we don't get the exemptions? And Trump doesn't know what to tell them.
Interesting. So in terms of this threat of a trade war, the French finance minister says it could happen in a matter of days. I mean, is that just all talk?
This trade war has been going on for quite some time. The French foreign minister is being diplomatic. Okay, what is going on here is this trade war will escalate in a few days' time. What to look for here is what kind of retaliatory measures are the Europeans and others going to unleash on the United States and what Trump's reaction to them might be. Trade wars don't work. Obama tried it with tariffs on Chinese tires. It raised prices. This is not going to create any more jobs in the steel industry. Very briefly, there are 372,000 jobs in the steel industry in the United States. There are 4.1 million jobs in industries that use steel, including the car industry, which is 45,000 people.
Yes.
A lot of those folks, 6-7 months' time, they're going to lose their jobs.
That's right. It is a numbers game at the end of the day. Craig Copetas, always good to chat. Thank you.